Judge.
Hey, good afternoon. The record should show that a quorum is present and that we are moving on to our next petition. Jamie Eagle. And Eagle, you are welcome here, and the Deputy Attorney General is with us, and is Summer Haro will be presenting the case today with respect to Ms. Eagle. Now, Ms. Eagle, did you hear my comments earlier this morning regarding the importance of focusing on rehabilitation and the activities that you have been engaged in since discipline?
Your Honor.
Do you have any questions procedurally at this point? Okay. So, Ms. Haro, if you would be so kind as to introduce this matter, get started that way.
Absolutely. Deputy Attorney General Summer Haro. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here to assist the panel in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I'm here to ensure that the panel has adequate information from which to make a decision. I would first like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1, the original petition packet with accompanying documents. The board members and the petitioner have been provided with a copy of the same set of exhibits. Exhibit 1 generally consists of the cover page and a summary, the table of contents. At Section A, the petition packet includes the petitioner's probation report by probation monitor Ebony Newton, and that's spelled E-B-O-N-I. Newton is N-E-W-T-O-N, dated October 3rd, 2017. At Section B is petitioner's petition for modification of probation and supporting documents. This consists generally of petitioner's petition, dated May 28, 2017, 10 letters of support and recommendation, 8 of which are by supervisors and co-workers at the Above It All Treatment Center, and 2 of which are by patients who were once under respondent's care. It also contains certificates of completion of petitioner's probation education course requirements, in total for some 90 contact hours of education. It also contains a November 26, 2012 certificate of completion for the 90-day residential treatment of the New House program for women. Section B also contains an employee performance review dated August 10, 2015. At Section C, there's the certification for vocational nurse license number VN205518. At Section D is the notice of this hearing and related correspondence. At Section E is petitioner's quarterly probation reports and work performance evaluations. At Section F are the support group attendance verification forms for the period of October 2016 through June 2017. At Section G is petitioner's probation education course certificates, which were previously referenced. At Section H are correspondence and like documents evidencing communications with probation monitor Ebony Newton. Among other things, this category includes a letter dated October 6, 2016 by addictionologist Michael Valdez, MD, stating that petitioner is not in active addiction and would benefit from a less rigorous drug testing and reporting schedule. And at Section I is the board's April 8th, 2016 decision revoking petitioner's license and placing her on probation. At this time, I offer this packet into evidence as Exhibit 1.
The packet has been marked as Exhibit 1 and is admitted into evidence.
Also like to note that prior to the commencement, I distributed to the board a letter that petitioner brought with her today, dated November 14th, 2017.
That's been marked as Exhibit 2 and is admitted into evidence.
Thank you. I'll now provide a brief summary of petitioner's license history with the board. On August 19th, 2003, the board issued vocational nurse license number VN205518 to petitioner. The license is set to expire on January 31st, 2019. On April 17th, 2015, the board filed accusation number VN-2011-2091 against petitioner. The accusation alleged 2 causes of discipline against petitioner for conviction of a substantially related crime and use/under the influence of a controlled substance. The accusation arose from 2 misdemeanor convictions in 2011 and 2012, which resulted from petitioner's use of methamphetamine in 2011. In February 2016, petitioner entered into a stipulated settlement, and in doing so, she admitted the truth of each and every charge contained in accusation number VN-2011-2091. That stipulation provided for the revocation of her license, which was stayed on 3 years probation pursuant to standard terms 1 through 14 and the following optional terms: addictive behavior support group, abstinence from controlled substances, abstinence from alcohol, drug testing, positive drug test, and major and minor violations. Further, respondent agreed to pay costs in the amount of $5,757. As of today's date, a balance of approximately $5,707 remains outstanding on that balance. On April 8, 2016, the board adopted the stipulation as its disciplinary order, and the decision became effective on May 8, 2016. Petitioner is now petitioning to modify the terms of her probation, particularly to terminate the random drug testing, which is found as term 18 in the stipulation, to reduce or terminate her probation fees, which is found at term 12 of the stipulation, to terminate what's been characterized as the court card requirement. And petitioner asserts that she's been sober and in recovery for 5 years and that the terms of her probation present a major financial hardship for her family. The petitioner's probation report by probation monitor Ebony Newton at Section A suggests that petitioner has not fully complied with the terms of her probation. Specifically, it appears that petitioner failed to complete educational courses by the required due date of May 8, 2017. That was required by term 10 of the stipulation. Petitioner has failed to pay the cost of recovery and has only paid $50 of those costs as required by term 12. And petitioner has failed to submit to drug testing on May 3rd, 2016, July 15th, 2016, and February 27th, 2017, as required by term 18. These constitute major and minor violations of the stipulation. Because the burden is on petitioner, I have no further statements but reserve the right to question petitioner.
Okay, Ms. Eagle, do you have any witnesses other than yourself here today? Okay, then if you would stand, I will swear you in. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, please be seated, and I remind you to speak clearly into the microphone and tell the board what you have to say.
This is very hard. I am extremely nervous. I made mistakes that I regret, that embarrassed me, that embarrassed my family, that embarrassed the board. I love what I do. I love nursing. I have a passion for it. I have always had a passion for it. I had a whole speech that I had in my head and I forgot it now. I love what I do. It scares me that I have to sit up here. It embarrasses me that I have to sit up here in front of the students, because I was one of those students at one time, and I was at a board meeting and I swore that I would never do anything to jeopardize my license, and I did. I don't know what else to say.
Why don't you take just a moment or two, see if anything comes to mind from what you planned to say, and if not, then the board members will ask you questions, and perhaps that will prompt some of what you wanted to say. Do you have anything else to say at this point, or do you want me to go to the board members? Mr. Sellers.
Yes, good afternoon. You can relax. Can you talk a little bit about the three missed tests, the three missed tests?
The 3 missed tests, the first one, I don't know. I didn't know that I was supposed to be testing at that time. When I went to see Ebony on July 14th, she said that she doesn't know why I was supposed to have tested at that time, and as far as I know, that test was supposed to be excused. I did write her a letter afterwards in regards to that. The July 14th test, I believe it was, I went up to meet with Ebony on July 13th for my initial, to go over my probation terms. I wasn't quite aware of how the testing worked. So I was out of town and I didn't have my chain of custody forms. I wasn't aware of how you have to make sure that there's a testing spot and all that. I did call and talk to Ebony the day after. Again, it's not an excuse. There's nothing I can say. That's why I didn't have it. And then the last test, I have to buy the chain of custody forms. I have to order them in advance. I live paycheck to paycheck right now. I'm the only one supporting my 4 kids, and I didn't have it. I didn't have the chain of custody form. I called and they called me to test, and I didn't have the form to go in. Not an excuse.
Can you tell me a little bit about your recovery? Tell me about your support systems. Tell me about the meetings you attend, sponsorship, things like that.
My recovery started long before my probation did. I went to treatment in 2012. My addiction was not who I was. It wasn't how I grew up. It wasn't a long term. I didn't start as a child and do it. It was something that was completely abnormal. It turned me into a person that I was not. I left my ex, the father of my 4 kids, and left everything, my home, all my belongings, and I went to treatment. I was there for 90 days. I thought I got a lot out of it. But when I got back into my sponsor that I have now, I realized that they didn't dig deep into the steps and all that. So I went to treatment. I got out of treatment. I continued to do meetings and stuff for a little while. I got my kids back, and I went back to the person that I was before, taking care of my kids, the mom that my kids knew, and I stopped going to meetings as much. I didn't continue with my sponsor that I got when I was in treatment. I got my license back because I had let it expire. I got a job. I was working in treatment when I was placed on probation. So being placed on probation, now I have to start attending meetings again. I have to get back into my recovery. And that's when I got my sponsor that I currently have, who I know is making me dig deep into not just my addiction, actually not even really my addiction, into problems, core problems. So now I go to meetings, I get my court card signed, and I do that as a requirement because my true recovery and my true program that I'm working isn't the requirements that I have for you guys. Like, I do that, and it's different. When I go to meetings, when I go see my sponsor, I'm there for the reason that I'm supposed to be there. I'm not there to do your requirements.
I guess with that answer, in the other two aside, why would the court cards, if you're going to continue to go to the meetings, why would the court cards why are you asking to have those relieved?
Because I go to meetings that I don't even have the court card signed for. I feel that there's many people that go to meetings And when you have to have your court card signed, you're going for that requirement. And when I go, like I said, for the meeting to be involved in the fellowship and stuff like that, I almost feel embarrassed that I have to turn in a court card. You know, I feel like people are looking at me differently, that I'm going there as a requirement to get something done, not because I'm there to support them, to support my recovery for the fellowship. I'm going, you know, when I turn in that court card, I almost feel like everybody's going to look at me and think I'm there for the wrong reason. And, you know,
Okay, thank you.
Here, King.
not that I have a hesitation, I feel differently. Like I want to go there not because it's required of me. You know, I want to go because I want to be in the fellowship, because I want to give support, because I want to get support. And I feel like the court card requirement, because there's a lot of meetings that you go to that there's not a lot of recovery. You know, when somebody's, I went to meetings where somebody's turning in the court card because they have to get the court card signed, and I don't feel like they have any clean time. I mean, there's been times where I've thought that they might even be under the influence then, and they're turning in their court card as a requirement, not because they're there because they want to be there. That's what I've seen, and you know, I don't want to be looked at as one of those people that are going just for the requirement. Uh, no. The main purpose of the Friday. Because the 12 steps make you, a lot of times, like I said, dig down into other issues that, you know, because a lot of times addiction, alcoholism, all that stuff, it's not because somebody wants the alcohol. There's other issues that are causing those. The 12 steps, like it makes you look at who you are, makes you look at how other people see you. Actually dig into the 12 steps. That's what it's digging into you. Value of support system, the fellowship, it's amazing the support that you get from the people that are in these rooms. And I mean, there's times where you get close with these people, and um, your peers will see something that you're not even noticing. You know, like, you know, something that's going on that you're not even realizing is affecting you the way it is, until you come and they're like, you know, your sponsor tells you, well, you know, read this part of the book and read that part of the book, and it makes you look inside of yourself. I don't think I do. I don't By getting the court card signed, yes.
Ms. Amazola?
Can you tell us? Thank you for being here. Can you tell us more about why your education course requirements were not fulfilled um, on the stated date that they needed to be completed?
I actually thought they were due a little bit later, and again, not an excuse. Also, the educational courses, when you have to do specific courses, it's not like the specials that they send you. They are a lot more expensive, and there was times where I wanted to do them and I didn't have the funds.
Thank you.
Ms. Bass de Martinez?
Thank you. Hi. Just a couple of questions. Help me kind of walk through. We've been talking about your attendance at sessions and signing in or not wanting to sign in. Would you consider yourself now to be drug-free?
Yes.
At what point could you say that? Is there a date or anything?
It would be, I guess, August 7th. I went into treatment August 26th. I did go in under the influence, so I guess my actual clean date would be August 27th,
In the year
2012. I'm sorry.
2012. And you successfully completed that program, correct?
Yes, new house.
And then you told us you went back home, children and everything, but something happened. You were challenged?
What do you mean?
Well, you mentioned that you found there was a need to dig deeper, that there was more.
I got placed on probation for you guys,
Right,
which required me to start attending meetings.
right.
And I, per Ebony's suggestion, I got a sponsor that I could go to the meetings with. I was a little bit nervous about getting back into that crowd, I guess, going back to meetings. Like I said, I live in a little bit bigger area to where there's meetings. There's meetings that that can be scary. It can be a trigger for a lot of people. So I was a little bit nervous about starting meetings again. It was, it had been a while, and so I got a sponsor who doesn't take my BS. I try to give her something. She would ask me questions that would make me look deeper inside myself, and that's where it came from, to where it started out as kind of a requirement. Like it's not the drugs. I left the drugs and I left my ex and I left all that and I became back to the person that I was, but it's the I guess spiritual growth outside of the sobriety, the clean time that I'm referring to now. That I'm getting from the fellowship now.
And
Not nothing that happened. It was, you guys placed me on probation, and so I had to start getting back into it. But I didn't relapse. It wasn't nothing like that. Like I had to go back to the meetings. I got a very good sponsor.
so if I'm hearing you correctly, it was the result of the circumstance with the board that took you back to group meetings. And you're asking us to eliminate some of our requirements, like, for example, the sign-in and the reporting.
The
What?
reporting, not reporting, just the court card, and that's like one of the least things. Uh, you know, I enjoy the fellowship. I am, like I said, I'm getting a lot of spiritual growth, a lot of, about myself.
So how would we know everything is continuing to move along if we were to eliminate some of those elements?
I would be required to turn in the quarterly reports, I would assume.
Right?
My employers would turn in the quarterly reports, and it's been my experience that if I wasn't continuing to do what I'm doing, everything's going to fall apart. It's not, my boss isn't going to send you a report saying that I'm doing great and I'm coming to work on time. I look great if my whole world is falling apart around me, and that's what drugs do to you. Like, there's no other way around it. It everything around you falls apart, so there's no faking it.
So you understand that, but we aren't there with you. So what besides those quarterly reports would help us or ensure us that on a daily basis things are going as we would hope? Or would it take another incident with a potential threat for removal of your license?
Would it take a threat?
Well, let me be more specific. You've asked for some changes. Do you have any evidence you can provide to us that if those changes are granted, you would still maintain and do what ultimately is expected? Stay drug free, not drink, and follow the other items required. What assurance or what evidence, what can you tell us that would help us agree to what you're asking?
There's no evidence that I can give you that would ensure you. I guess I would just hope that the place that drugs brought me, I never want to be. Unless you've been there, it's I don't want to cuss, but it's a hell that you will never know. It's the most hopeless, helpless place, and there's no part of me that would ever want to go back there. I don't know what evidence I could give you that would ensure you of that. I know that within me, I am 100% sure that there is nothing that would make me want to go back to that place. It was a place that I did not know that I was going to be able to come out of. And sitting here, I'm out of it, and I'm.
You mentioned a financial constraint. Is there any way that you can help us better understand other than, and you've mentioned several times, and I do hear you. You said from paycheck to paycheck. What is there any evidence or something you can provide for us to help us understand or to validate what you're telling us? You see, one of the things we're responsible, and I'm a public member of the board, I'm sworn to protect the safety of the public of the state of California. And while I hear you saying, believe me, how do I ensure the protection of the people of the state of California based solely on what you said? help me help you? Is there anything else evidence-wise that you might provide? Thank you.
Ms. Endozo,
No questions.
Ms. James Perez.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Just quickly, when you say court cards, does that mean that's just the attendance verification that you're talking about? Okay. It's not, because we're not a court, but it's just that sign-in sheet basically is what you're talking about.
Sorry, I refer to them as court cards because a lot of times, people have to do it for court.
I just wasn't familiar with the terminology.
Sorry.
So, if there's been talk about, if your attendance verification requirement was removed, would you still go to meetings? Why? Why would you still go to meetings if you didn't have to?
I go to meetings that I don't have to now. Fellowship, it's the support group. It's something that I never knew, definitely, and I would have never thought that, because not good people. And the support group that the NA family has is just, it's something that I've never seen. I enjoy it. I look up to people, like the commitments that they have to helping others, the just willing to drop anything for somebody in need. I would continue that. And honest person. There's so many. It's not just the not doing the drugs that the fellowship gives you.
When you were using, you said your sobriety date is August 2012. So back 4 or 5 years ago, what were your triggers? What would cause you to use?
I think that what caused me to start using was an unhappy marriage, just unhappy in general. I started using, and I started hanging out with my ex, who wasn't my ex at the time, and it was different. It was outside of my normal that I had been doing for so long, and it brought me a happiness, I guess, and it got a hold of me, and it took me to where I don't know. It wasn't necessarily a trigger. It was just my life, and it became, I was able to get clean.
So the relationship that you were in, that was part of the relationship, was substances. That was part of.
It wasn't to start with, but yes, at the end, substances were brought in, and it ended it.
And I could see that, especially a romantic partner or a father of your children could have an influence on you. But you also made a decision to use, right?
Oh, most definitely. I don't blame it on anybody. I made the decision every single time.
And I was reading through the reference letters from where you work, and you work in a detox facility. And there were several reference letters, and they're all very glowing, and it sounds like you have a lot of responsibility at work. There was one where it said that they rely heavily on you on the night shift to assess new patients coming in. It sounds like there's also some crises. There was something about a car crashed into the building and it caught on fire, and you put the fire out?
Actually, there was I worked up in the mountains at the time, and yeah, there was a car accident that happened. It was a staff member. It was parked on the street. Somebody came around the corner, hit that car, and ended up in our driveway. The house wasn't on fire, but the the car that caused the accident was in our driveway on fire. And yes,
So in this environment, you have a lot of demands on you, you have a lot of responsibility, stressful situations happen. How do you cope with that stress without using?
I lowest place that I've ever been. I know without a doubt that using will only make everything worse. It's not even like I get stressed out, and that's using my mind because that is what brought me here. That is, doesn't help anything, and there's no part of
And then also I wanted to ask you also, Deputy Attorney General, just for a clarification, because there were 3 days listed as you failed to test. And one was February 27, 2017, and that's when you said you didn't have the papers. You couldn't afford to buy the papers. July 15th, 2016, when you were out of town. And then the other one's May 3rd, 2016. But I want to ask you, ma'am, for clarification. My reports show that probation didn't start till May 8th, 2016. Was the beginning day of probation.
Let me review that.
Because
The dates I got for the missed testing came from the probation monitor's report.
Right. But then when I look at the start date of probation, the order date, start date of probation, it looks to me like it's May 8, 2016. So the first date would actually be before your probation started.
Yeah, see, and when I went up, I didn't call in on that date. I didn't know that I was supposed to test. I didn't.
Yes, I'm looking at the decision, and you are correct that the decision wasn't effective until May 8th, 2016.
That first date was actually is an error then.
Correct. It wouldn't be a violation of the probation terms because it pre-existed it.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So you've testified that you plan to continue with your AA. Oh, your NA. All right, your NA treatment with or without the requirement from this board in your probation, correct? So then why would you be opposed to checking in and turning in a card that verifies you're actually there?
Like I said, it's not. I feel like I'm almost being. I feel like I'm turning in the court card. It's something within myself that I want to do it because I want to be there. I will be there, and like I said, I'll continue to turn in the card. Not a huge deal because I'll go. It's everybody to know that I'm there because
I believe I saw a notation in the report stating that you had not worked in a healthcare field, but you have, right?
I have only worked in health.
Yeah, I thought I saw a notation in the beginning, but maybe I misread that was one of the violations.
Not that I'm aware of. I'm looking at the probation. Oh, yeah, term 7 says, I believe that's, I'm not sure why the probation report under term 7 says that petitioner has not been employed in the healthcare field.
Okay, so we need to correct that because obviously she's consistently worked in the healthcare field.
Yeah, the probation report does say that she's in compliance with that term. So I can't speak to why the probation monitor prepared it that way.
All right, okay. I have no further questions.
Ms. Carpenter?
one of the advantages of being on the end is that most of the questions that I might have had and a few others I wouldn't have even thought of have already been answered. You did allude to your ex, and you said that he's still in your life and you're getting along?
I mean, he's still in my life. He's the father of my 4 kids. Didn't choose that route, and he didn't take opportunities, and
Oh. Thank you.
Any other follow-up questions?
Please.
I just had a couple here. Directing your attention, ma'am, to your employment history with Braswell's. You were there for a short period of time. You indicated your reason for leaving was you were let go for failing to notify of prior convictions.
yes.
When you applied for work there, did they ask you if you have a conviction or criminal history?
On the application they did, and I was not honest.
Okay, thank you. My other question is, why do you think the board requires verification of licensee or probationer's attendance at meetings? Why do you think that is? Why do you think we require verification? Okay, thank you.
Ms. Baste Martinez.
Well, that was one of my questions. But there's one other, and it just kind of piqued itself in a couple of responses you've given. A little earlier, you said you were concerned about how you might be perceived. And as you've described some other circumstances, you've told us about how those who sign in, what people might think about them. Is this something you're working on? How you are perceived?
How I'm perceived, I guess. But I guess what I should be working on a little bit more, which you just kind of made me aware of that, is I'm probably judging the ones that are turning in the court card, or I'm going to feel like I'm being judged. So
that might be the only reason you would ask us to not require that confirmation? The sign in, what you refer to as the court.
can you ask that again? I'm sorry.
Well, you just mentioned that maybe you might be judging those who do sign in. And you said you did not want to be perceived that way. Is that the only reason you are requesting that requirement to be removed?
I have no intention of not going to meetings.
So having made that commitment so that we know you're there, you would sign in?
Of course. This is all I know. I love what I do, and I will do whatever is required of me. Most definitely.
Thank you.
Any other follow-up questions? Ms. Haro, do you have questions?
A couple. Ms. Eagle, you said that your sobriety date was August 27th, 2012, correct?
Yes.
Because you you checked in on the 26th.
I believe I checked in on the 26th. It was 2012, so it was a 90-day program. So yeah, that's
In tab 3 on your quarterly reports, on a number of them, it lists your sobriety date as September 2012. Can you explain that discrepancy?
just the 9, the end of the month, because I don't count dates. When unless it's like right around the year, I don't count. I don't have. I've got this many years, months, days clean.
Okay.
So I round it to 9th when it gets to I have that many years clean.
Now, the current NA group that you attend, and that I believe you said you felt like you've been able to dig deeper, how long have you attended that group?
The Just for Today, I started attending when I had to go, so in 2016.
How often do you attend?
Twice a week to that group.
How?
Saturdays and Sundays.
I'm sorry.
The group is 7 days a week. I go Saturdays and Sundays. For the most part.
And how often are you required to go under the terms of your settlement agreement?
I believe twice a week.
Okay. Your employment is with a detox facility, correct?
It's with a treatment center. So yes, they have the detox that I work in, but it's a
And how long have you worked there?
the current one, I've only worked there for about a month, a little over a month.
And prior to that?
I worked at Above It All, and it was
All right.
and it's the same residential treatment.
Do you have any criminal convictions that the board is not aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. And are you aware of any pending either criminal or civil litigations, lawsuits against you? No? Those are all the questions I have.
Any follow-up questions by board members? Is there anything else you would like to say, Ms. Eagle, before we conclude?
Guys, for being so patient and understanding of my nervousness and time to hear me.
Thank you for coming. The matter is submitted, the record is closed, and we are off the record in this matter.
So that concludes the hearings for today. I do need to make a couple of announcements. On the agenda, the posted board meeting agenda version, it skips a few agenda items and numbers. So we're going to follow the numbers listed on the posted agenda. The other thing is, yesterday the board met in closed session to deliberate on the administrative committee's findings related to the appointment of an executive officer. During the closed session, the board met separately with 3 final candidates for the executive officer position. With the assistance of the Department of Consumer Affairs, Office of Human Resources, following the interviews, the board deliberated on the qualifications of the 3 finalists and unanimously selected interim executive officer Cheryl Anderson as the executive officer from amongst the highly qualified competitive group of finalists. The board has provided this information to the Department of Consumer Affairs Office of Human Resources and will be working with them to complete the appointment process. The board has authorized the board president to send a letter to the governor to notify the governor of the board's intention to appoint Ms. Anderson as the executive officer, subject to all necessary requirements and approvals, and to recommend the governor that Ms. Anderson be appointed executive officer when the Assembly Bill 1229 goes into effect on January 1st, 2018. The actions are being re-announced in open session due to the lateness of the hour at which closed session was adjourned yesterday. And the actions, due to the how late we ran last night in closed session. So that brings us to closed session. This is, the meeting will now adjourn to closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 11126C3 to deliberate and vote on the above matters and any other disciplinary matters. If we could ask anybody who is not required in closed session to please exit the room so that we can enter into closed session at this time.